This is K.M. Weiland, and you're listening to the 303rd episode of the Helping Writers Become Authors podcast. The writing life, full of surprises. Sometimes stories end up taking you in places you never imagined they would. For me, I got zoomed around for a huge loop-de-loop last night at a campfire when I suddenly got hit by a development I never saw coming. Namely, a sequel idea for my Portal Fantasy Dreamlander, as well as ideas for turning my current standalone work in progress, Wayfarer, about the historical superhero, into a trilogy. For someone who's never written a sequel in her life, this came out of nowhere. But I'm super excited about the possibilities, especially the idea of getting to revisit Dreamlander. I've been toying with the idea for a while, but never seriously because I tied off the loose ends in the first one so tightly that I didn't think I'd be able to logically make a second work. But now I've got ideas pouring out of me. Fun stuff. The latest post in the video series on my blog is, did you know tell versus show matters in foreshadowing too? It offers 2 examples of how tell versus show in foreshadowing can weaken the overall effect on your story and what you can do instead. To find that post, visit my site at helpingwritersbecomeauthors.com. And now, I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast, entitled 4 Methods to Invigorate Your Prose with Surprising Sentences. Good storytelling is all about the big pieces, structure, character, theme. But good writing, that's much more intricate, much more intimate. Good writing is about creating purposeful and interesting prose. Creating prose of that caliber starts with the mechanics of grammar and spelling, but any middle schooler is supposed to be able to do that. The art of good prose is about taking sentences beyond functionality and turning them into something surprising. In short, good writing is all about using the same old words and same old structures to create something new, something readers will never see coming. To a large extent, what this means is reinventing the form, and not just in a once-in-a-lifetime, if you get lucky kind of way. No, this is about reinventing yourself and your writing in every single sentence. So, not sure you can do that? Today we're going to consider 4 ways you can boost your prose into something special by injecting the element of surprise into every single sentence. Number 1, anticipate reader expectations and avoid them. Clichés are rampant and to some extent unavoidable. Humans think in clichés. In part, this is because most of us experience similar reactions to these similar things we encounter in our daily lives. In part, it is because the very prevalence of clichés has conditioned us to experience things similarly. And in another part, it is because our brains are just plain lazy. Inevitably, we write sentences and include descriptions that tap into these shared experiences and overtrod familiarities. Clichés come into our minds so easily that it's instinctive to also put them on the page. Half the time, we may not even realize we're using clichés. The problem is that our readers' own familiarity with these phrases and ideas means they will anticipate our language every single time. The lack of surprise, even on a subconscious level, will suck the life out of our prose. In an October 2014 interview with The Writer magazine, novelist Anthony Doerr suggested that we instead think about language by its degree of strangeness. I don't want the sentences to feel entirely familiar either. I find myself describing a character's eyes, for example. I'm probably going to try to avoid verbs like glint or sparkle, because those are verbs a reader has seen paired beside eyes many times before. Maybe so many times that they have lost some of their original power. Number 2, discover the possibilities of the unexplored in your prose. Never settle for the first descriptive word or phrase to come to mind as you're typing a scene. Dig deeper. There exists a wide vista of unexplored possibilities within every word choice. Sometimes changing a single word is all it takes to transform your prose from something common and forgettable to something that sparks your readers' imaginations and even changes their way of looking at the world. Your readers' brains will subconsciously fill in blanks as they read your story. By the time they've read only half of a sentence, their brains will already be anticipating the second half. When the second half ends up surprising them, when it ends up avoiding the cliché, they automatically experience a pleasant jolt. A blank opens up within your story, and their brains race to catch up with it. In that same interview, Dorr quoted Heather McHugh from Peter Trichy's Maps of the Imagination. Given a blank, we can't help trying to fill it in along lines of customary seeing or saying. But the best poetic lines undermine those habits, break the off the dictable, unsettle the suburbs of your routine sentiments, and rattle the tracks of your trains of thoughts. This is the birthplace of powerful subtext. By shaking up reader expectations, by making their brains work a little harder, by thrilling them with new possibilities, we open up the world of our stories far beyond the words actually found on the page. Number 3, seek out surprising images. Imagery is a vital part of good storytelling. But like our word choices themselves, our imagery is also likely to start out bland and easily foreseeable. In order to write truly surprising sentences, we must start out with surprising subject matter. This extends to the entirety of our plots, but also to the smaller integers of the actual objects and sensations we are evoking. Instead of describing a rosy sunrise, why not concentrate on a more unusual aspect of your setting? Why not focus on the flowers turning their faces to the sun and opening their petals? Instead of describing a bum passed out on the curb with an empty bottle wrapped in a brown paper bag, why not focus on the remaining half of a McNugget clenched in his fist? In his classic novel, The Ambassadors, Henry James used the following surprising and deliciously evocative metaphor to describe a lovely young girl. She was fairly beautiful to him, a faint pastel in an oval frame. He thought of her already as of some lurking image in a long gallery, the portrait of a small old-time princess of whom nothing was known but that she had died young. Are you digging this deep into your own character descriptions? Number 4. Create paraprosdokians, surprising sentences at their best. A paraprosdokian is a figure of speech in which the latter half of a sentence or idea is completely unexpected, although still sensible, in a way that changes the reader's understanding of the first half. Word player Louis Wilberger delighted me by sending me a list of these clever little word tricks. Some of my favorites included, where there's a will, I want to be in it. The last thing I want to do is hurt you, but it's still on my list. Since light travels faster than sound, some people appear bright until you hear them speak. If I agreed with you, we'd both be wrong. Nostalgia isn't what it used to be. Or how about Winston Churchill's famous quip, "It has often been said that Britain and America are two nations divided only by a common language." Paraprosdokians are frequently employed humorously or sarcastically, but their uses go far beyond simple wordplay. We can use the principle in all aspects of our stories by taking common ideas and turning them into something fresh and original. Great prose will always be original prose. Frankly, that's something we see so seldom that its very presence is often the most surprising thing about it. So what do you say? Want to take your prose to the next level? Start by using these 4 methods to surprise and delight your readers on every page. Thank you for listening to the Wordplay Podcast. To read a transcript of this episode, you can visit my website at helpingwritersbecomeauthors.com. And be sure to check back again next week.